It's the Hero Show. Welcome to the Hero Show, everybody. Starring the irrepressible Andrew Bernstein and the Renaissance man Robert Begley. I am Andrew Bernstein, and you are indubitably Robert Begley. How you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing great, Andy. Happy to talk about some tragedy, but some triumph as well. Greek tragedies and its origin. Really exciting episode to cover the most prolific of them all.
Yeah, Sophocles, of course, is our topic, is our hero for today. Greatest of the
Mhm.
Greek dramatists. His dates,
Yes.
and he lived a long life in any era, but especially back, in the fifth century BC, 497 to 406 BC.
Mhm.
I mean, he was 90 or 91 when
Wow.
he passed on. So and by there's a lot they say about Sophocles' life, and then they'll say, "Well, we don't know if this story is true or not. This might be apocryphal." But there are people, certainly, there are people who say he just lived this great life. He was born into wealth. He was enormously
Yeah.
talented. He had tremendous success. It's like you look hard to find any hardship, pain, suffering, and lived it in good health to this ripe old age. Wrote 120
Mhm.
plays. Won, what was it, 24 out of 30 competitions that he entered.
Yeah.
He basically
Yeah.
drove Aeschylus out of town. Another great
You're
Greek
right.
dramatist. He had this. The only black mark on his life was his he lived so long his children sued him for his money, which we'll talk about at one point because it involves one of his plays. But he lived this
Yes.
extraordinarily successful and happy life from the accounts that we and wrote these great tragedies. He had this fulfilled life and had this tragic vision. It's fascinating. The combination is really
Mhm.
fascinating.
Yeah, well, also, I think he that's what the format was. If we even set the context, 5th century Greece, the imagine living the entire 496, 497 to 406. Uh, what was happening there? Socrates was born a couple of
Mhm.
decades later, so he saw
Yep.
Socrates and certainly knew of him and his Socratic method, which he integrated. Uh,
Sure.
Battles left and right, the Battle of Marathon, always fighting with the Persians and others, and he rose, in ascendancy, his reputation as not only a great playwright, which, yeah, as you said, winning 24 out of 30 competitions, always coming in second, and second or first. So,
Right.
but revolutionizing the play as we know it. Because if we even go back, what was the origin of this? There were no plays before the Greeks. Like this is a Greek origin, at least to what we know. And certainly in Western
Yeah.
civilization, we go back to the cradle.
Yeah,
And
when we talk
Sophocles
about
was, mhm,
when we talk about the ancients, like when I'm in class, I always qualify it by saying that we know of, because human
yes.
beings have been on this world for maybe 200,000 years according to evolutionary biology, and we have records for a few thousand years. So you would think if
Mhm.
well, now we know a lot of what was going on back then, Rob. It was you remember Rocky 3, that's the one with Mr. T, right? Right, one of my favorite
Yes.
Rocky films. Where
Pity
he
the
asked
fool.
Mr. T, yeah, that's right. They asked him uh, Mr. T as Club Lag. I live alone. I train alone. I fight alone. He says his prediction for the fight is pain. You know, and we don't have records, but we pretty much know what was going on most of that time. War. You know, so I'm guessing if there were advanced civilizations and there were dramatists like Aeschylus, Sophocles, and so forth, we probably have records. But who knows? So much is destroyed in the endless warfare. So yeah, the first
Yeah.
dramas that we know of, certainly, I think I'm no expert in history of drama, but I think you're right. I mean, I think it would be the Greeks.
Yeah, and they were born out of choruses. And first they were vocal, they were songs at festivals. And then they started to, instead of having a whole series of people, they limited to two people. That was a standard for some
Right.
time in plays. And Sophocles introduced a third person, which escalated the conflict, like right on the spot.
According,
And
yeah,
then
according to Aristotle, writing in the
In
Poetics.
Aristotle's Poetics, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and he also says scenery. Now look at the experience, the difference in experience where you're used to just seeing two people go back and forth. Now you add a third person, conflict is heightened. Now you add scenery. So now the experience that you're going through sitting in that theater is heightened dramatically.
Mhm.
And just quickly on the tragic part that we started with, yeah, somebody who lived such a successful, fruitful, happy life, why tragedy? Well, that was the standard. You know, he didn't live after Ayn Rand wrote the Fountainhead, where he could automatically change things. You know, and again, even a century before Aristotle. So it's amazing. This is part of the reason such a hero
Ah,
Sophocles is,
no, I
because the
know,
period that
Robert.
he wrote in. Go
Robert, you're
ahead.
absolutely right. But about tragedy being the, the conventional theater back then. But he's so good at it. You
Yes.
can't fake this.
Yes.
You can't
Yes.
fake this. This has to be his view, like it is Shakespeare's, because he presents it so
Yes.
powerfully. Well, anyway, that's not a knock
Right.
on him. Tragedy is obviously not my favorite form of literature, but we're talking literary principles here, not my likes or dislikes. He's a
Hmm.
master of tragedy. I mean,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Aristotle talks about Oedipus Rex as the greatest plot structure ever written. Now, of course, he's
Ever
writing in the
written.
fourth
So yeah,
century. He's
let's.
writing in the fourth century BC, before
Yeah.
Hugo. And if Aristotle wrote on everything, so I'm assuming if he were alive in the modern world, he'd be interested in everything. Probably read Agatha Christie's mysteries and go, "Oh my god," you know. There's no profound themes in these stories, but what a plot writer she
Hmm.
is, you
That's
know.
right.
But anyway,
That's
yeah.
right.
But Oedipus the Rex does have a great plot and a profound theme. So whether I like it or not,
Yeah.
Aristotle's certainly right. In his context, it's not only a great play, but during his time, I think it would have to be considered the greatest play ever written up until that time.
Certainly. So, Ellie, you can show the picture. So let's take a couple of minutes on this work, which has been brought through the ages and somewhat bastardized, which we can even talk about that with what Freud did. My introduction, Andy, I'm 12, 13 years old, and I'm a big fan of The Doors, the band, Jim Morrison, The Doors.
Mm-hmm.
Still to this day, my
Sure.
favorite song is called The End. It's like an 11-minute hypnotic
Yeah.
song.
Right.
And in the middle of it, he says, he talks about a killer, and he sees his father and he says, "Father, yes, son, I want to kill you. Mother, I want to." And I'm thinking to myself, what is this guy doing? And I read, like in a rock magazine, that Morrison took that from Oedipus. It's a story of Oedipus. So, in case people don't know, um, the the gods Apollo, it's foretold Oedipus's parents that their son will kill the father and marry the mother, and that
Yeah, I
is
don't know
not
which is. I don't know which
something.
is worse. Yeah, I don't know which is worse.
But what a
That
plot,
is
right,
horrible.
Andy? And then
Oh
you
yeah. Oh
spend
yeah.
your
Without a doubt.
entire life looking for the kid. First of all, you leave the place where you're born so that you can't have that. The parents see or foretold this, so they want to kill the kid, and the baby, and he's taken by one of the servants and completely raised by adopted parents. He doesn't know who he is, but when he hears the story, he wants to find the killer of his father. His father was a king, and now this is in Thebes, right? They're called the Theban
Yes.
plays because they
Yes.
take place
Hmm.
in Thebes in Greece. And so just the plot, the conflict is heightened because this man is going on a hunt to find out who the killer is, only to find out that it is himself. So what
It's kind of
what
like
a gripping.
yeah, kind of like O.J. Simpson, right? back. He's looking for the. He was put up all his money to find the killer of his ex-wife and
And somebody
everything.
sent him a mirror, an envelope, right in the mail. They sent him a mirror.
Yeah, and it's not funny because there were two innocent people murdered. But
No, that's
I
not.
was, and
That's
for
not
me, I
funny.
was always a, yeah, like gazillions of other people. I was always a big OJ fan, and so it was shocking, horrible, disappointing, all rolled up into one. But anyway,
But
that's not our story.
what an
That's
idea,
not our
though.
story,
If
right?
right, if you think about an idea that Sophocles came up with, and which again has the test of time, everyone knows what is it? The Oedipus complex, right? Is that what Freud
Yeah,
did, where you want to kill your father and marry your mother? And that's not what Sophocles was going for back then. That was because he's consciously Oedipus is consciously looking to avoid every action he takes in the play is aimed towards not doing that,
yeah.
which sadly he falls into.
Yeah, and Freud, in fairness to Freud, who's a little bit, maybe more than a little bit nutty, but he's not ascribing any of that to Sophocles or Oedipus himself. He's saying, Freud's saying we, you know, male children, want to, you know, love their mothers and maybe have sex with their mothers, which is like the most horrifying thing I can think of.
No, no, no,
Giving so, but anyway,
wrong.
supplant our father in the lead affections of the mother, whether literally or not. And so he just borrowed the name. He borrowed the name from Sophocles. So he
Hmm.
wasn't ascribing any of that to Sophocles or to Oedipus himself. But as far as I know about Freud, I'm no expert in the field of psychology or in Freudian psychology. I think that's true. But anyhow, your point definitely right. It's great plot structure. Laius and Jocasta, king and queen of Thebes. You mentioned the prophecy. They wanted to kill him, but the shepherd, whoever the emissary was, had pity on him and left him with the
Yeah,
shepherd's family. The shepherd raised him. Nobody tells him. So he thinks the shepherds are his biological parents. They're not. When he hears about his fate, it's horrible. He gets as far away from the shepherd, Mr. and Mrs. Shepherd, as he can, so he doesn't kill his parents, and he kills Laius the king, over a traffic dispute. It's not even in the Bronx, but it's over a traffic dispute.
road
The
rage.
king is, yeah, right, road rage, exactly, road rage, right. Laius is traveling incognito, and Oedipus kills him. Doesn't know that he's killed the king. It's interesting how he wins the hand of Jocasta. And by the way, I want to say one aside here. So okay, so maybe people didn't live generally as long back then, excluding Sophocles. Uh, but maybe Jocasta had him. Maybe let's say she's 16 or 17. Now he's 18, so she's in her mid-30s. So she's a beautiful woman. But
Yeah,
still, you could see she's older than me. Uh, if I was Oedipus, I would have stayed as far away from older women as I possibly could, just to,
true,
just to be
true.
careful. Was it, Robert? Was it?
What are
You're a
the
big rock.
odds, right?
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah,
the back
yeah.
of
I
your
know,
mind
right?
should be, what are the odds? Older woman.
Yeah,
Let me just do the
yeah.
math here.
I'm not touching her. I don't care how attractive she is. You're a big rock aficionado. Was it Bill Wyman who, when he was like from the Rolling Stones, when he
Yeah,
was
the
like 50
Stones. Yeah.
something?
Hmm.
Yeah, he married like a 15-year-old girl. Like,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Tony
But he's
Randall too.
safe.
Mhm.
But he's safe. If he marries. But anyway. I should have made a joke out of this. But the riddle of the Sphinx factors in here, right? Because
Yes.
the Sphinx is this creature that has this. He waylays wayfarers. Riddle me this. He says, if you can't answer the riddle, he kills the guy. And theoretically, if you can answer the riddle, then the Sphinx is supposed to kill himself. So, do you want to tell everybody what the riddle of the Sphinx was?
The riddle is, yeah, it's fabulous. What
Yeah, it is. It
has
really
two
is.
legs in the morning, three in the afternoon, and four in the evening, and it's man who is
Yeah.
upright, walks
Wait a
upright,
minute. Who
and
would
then
no no is what
oh no,
walks
no,
on
no.
four
I'm sorry.
legs
It
in the
starts with
morning? Yeah,
four. I
yeah,
get
yeah,
yeah. I get
yeah.
the timing wrong. But yeah, crawls as a baby on all four, walks
Right.
upright on two, and then has a cane later in life. And so, the Sphinx, you're right, just like Monty Python's rabbit, right? The rabbit that kills people. You can't, no, wrong, out.
Yeah,
And so, yeah,
it's
he
not
solves
funny.
this riddle.
Yeah, Oedipus is smart, except when it comes to older
Yeah,
women. But yeah, he solves the riddle, and the Sphinx commits suicide. And when Oedipus comes into Thebes, he's a conquering hero because he's rid them of this monster. And
yes,
the king conveniently has just been killed, so the queen by him, he doesn't realize that yet.
yes.
The queen is
Hmm.
unmarried, and so he wins the hand of this beautiful queen and marries her, thereby
Hmm.
inadvertently fulfilling this horrific prophecy. Uh,
Yeah, and rules
and then,
successfully.
right,
Has four children with her.
with his mother,
One of whom is Antigone. Two sons
right,
who are played out. So actually, we should say that. So the three we mentioned earlier, the order of these were written. Antigone was the first one, then Oedipus Rex, and then Oedipus at Colonus. He wrote at the very end of his life. But they're not fully integrated as like a trilogy per
right,
se.
right. Yeah, they
But
call
yeah,
it the
so has
Theban
four
saga,
children.
right? They call it the Theban
Yes,
saga rather than the trilogy because you're right. It's not a
you're
trilogy.
right. That's a
It,
better term.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, right. Four children. So you were discussing his kids. What his
So
kids?
yeah,
What
so and
Jocasta?
he's a successful ruler for
Yes.
still on the hunt for the murderer of the king, and well, the murderer of his of his father. And when he finds out, what does he do? I mean, that's the ending is just so, oh boy, it's so horrid and it's so tragic because it is a mess. The wife, what he says to her, Jocasta, when he finds out she is the mother, and she didn't know either. It's not as if
No.
she
No. No.
knew.
She didn't know.
That's so the innocence here, and this is where I just think the ingeniousness of the plot is that nobody knows consciously what they are doing, because if they did, they wouldn't do it. So here's the free will part, Andy, that I think we're going to talk a lot more with Antigone. I think the greatest heroine in literature, close to all of literature, but certainly in plays, that free will is big. He gives choice, and he has individuals. Even though the gods play a major role in foretelling things, Sophocles, the difference between him and the other, his contemporaries, Aeschylus and Euripides, they have a lot more of the gods ruling, and
Mhm.
Sophocles gives man more free will and more choice.
Right. And Oedipus is a good man generally. Or
Yes.
even though he kills a guy over road rage, but generally he's a good man. He's searching for the truth. He's a good ruler, and he's just so he does make that choice. Was it? It's a long time since I read Oedipus Rex. Is there somebody in the play who warns him, don't look into this any further? Don't
Yeah.
search
Oh,
for
yeah.
this. You're not gonna.
That's right.
You're not
Yeah.
gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right. And he
He's
says,
telling
no,
him,
no. I
don't. Yeah.
gotta
Right.
find. Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta find the
That's
truth.
right. And he's like, nope,
Right.
you're not gonna like it. But even just to clarify, Andy, even killing a man, it's not like he went out and they were both going at it. So it's not as
Oh yeah.
if
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
he just
Yeah.
went,
It was.
today I'm going to
It
kill
was a
somebody.
fair. It was a fair fight. Right. It
It
was a
was
fair
more
fight.
a matter of there was a dispute and it got violent. And back
Yeah.
then, people killed each other on the road, and so
Well, they
I'm not
still
excusing
do.
it.
No, no, they
Yeah,
they still do. You
true,
road rage,
true.
but it's like, yeah, it's like we grew up, Robert. We saw all these Western movies, Gary
Yeah.
Cooper, John Wayne, a little bit later
Yep.
Clint Eastwood, all these great
Hmm.
westerns, and the difference between killing somebody and a fair fight. Yeah, it's all this violent culture that's you don't want to have to
Yes.
live in. But this is a fair fight between Oedipus and Leia. So it's absolutely right. He's not a murderer.
Hmm.
Uh, but
Hmm.
yeah, so he's
Hmm.
a good man, and you're right. He makes the choice, even though he gets warnings. Don't search for the truth. You're not gonna. It's gonna be
Yeah.
very unpleasant, to put it mildly. But he does. He
Hmm.
searches and he digs and digs and digs, and he finds the truth. And I can't remember who it was who warned him not to search for the truth, but
Right, little by little it was, and then he's brought good news. No, we have good news about the king. He died. That's not the man that was killed, and there's like some confusion even about that. And what looks like good news all of a sudden is like he goes from the height of relief, both him and Jocasta, and then he finds out exactly why. And even in Aristotle's Poetics, he even says that this arc of a drama where you're so elated and then you're completely shattered. And once he finds out, do you remember the ending? Like specifically what Andy
well, well,
that
well,
she?
well, well,
Go ahead.
I remember Jocasta commits suicide, and
Yeah,
Oedipus gouges out his eyes.
yeah.
That's what I
Yep.
and
So that's
Creon.
I could show a picture here of my copy. So that's one reason you see the eyes are pulled down because he doesn't want to
Yeah,
see anymore. He feels like I can't look. My sight, all I see is this evil that I took part in, and I yeah, pluck out my eyes and exiled from Thebes. The children are so let's talk about Creon briefly because there's a connection with Creon is Jocasta's brother, and once Oedipus leaves Thebes, Creon he gives the children. He says, "You take the children. I have to get out of here and restore order," which is what Creon does. But the ending is, it's clearly a tragic ending. Um, the story of Oedipus. I
oh
mean, I don't know
yes,
what I would do if I was in that situation, but my eyes would be the last thing. I have to admit,
yeah, I would.
I've always had good
Yeah,
eyes.
no,
That would be the last thing I
especially
would do. Is
yeah, especially if you're exiled, you're gonna go wandering, Greece
yeah,
without sight. That's bad enough to be exiled, but to be blind
yeah. But it's
while
a
you're doing
self
it. No, no,
torture
no
that he,
thanks.
part of
Yeah,
it is a punishment. He's punishing himself for what he did clearly unknowingly. So yeah,
yeah,
that's basically the story. That's the story of
right.
Oedipus Rex. Oedipus Tyrannus is, I think, the Greek title. Oedipus the King, we know. Then Woody Allen had Oedipus Rex with WRECKS,
Yeah, yeah.
and it brought all
Woody
his
Allen.
neuroses to that.
Woody Allen looks like he's a deeply disturbed individual, but he is funny. He is a
He is
comedic
funny.
genius. But
So
before we discuss
Rex,
it,
yes, go
before
ahead,
we
Andy.
discuss Antigone, I think we should discuss Oedipus at Colonus because of
Okay, sure.
the moral themes here. Uh, and the story, the story before the story is that like you said before, Robert, that Sophocles wrote Oedipus at Colonus very late in life, a year or two before, but he died. I don't think it was dramatized. I don't think it was acted out on the stage until after his death. Um,
Shortly after,
but
yeah, which he died
yeah,
at Colonus as well. Hmm.
okay. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
Okay. And so he's very elderly. He's 90 or 91 when he passes away. His children are getting, if he had children when he was 20, well, they're 70 by this time. And says, Dad, we want the money, and so they bring charges of that he's senile and not able to, to take care of himself anymore, and so that they should get the money and everything, and maybe and look after the old man. And so the judge asks him, yeah, it's just Sophocles, after all, respectfully. So Sophocles, what are you doing in your old age? And according to the story, Sophocles held up the copy of Oedipus at Colonus, and he read from it, and the judge ruled this guy's not senile, And so,
Yes.
Sophocles
Amazing.
kept on held on to his wealth, until his death. But anyway,
Hmm.
in Oedipus at Colonus, Oedipus has been wandering for years, like you said, Robert. He's been punished, and he's blind. So he can't see all the evil that he will quote responsible for. And in Oedipus at Colonus, he's obviously he's older, he's more reflective, he's thoughtful, and he challenges the gods. So what kind of gods are these? I tried to do everything I could to avoid this horrendous fate, but it was fated. There's the determinist element, that's in the
Yes.
it's in the place. In other words, my choices, I had choices, but they were powerless to enable me to escape this fate. The more choices I made, the more deeply I enmeshed myself in this destiny that was imposed on me by the powers that be, whether it's the gods or the fates or whatever. What kind of
Hmm.
justice? And I get blamed for it, and I got to take the moral responsibility for it. I got to be punished for it. What kind of justice, cosmic? What kind of cosmic justice is there in this world? And you see, this is something that Aeschylus would never have done. Aeschylus is a great playwright, by the way. But he always venerated the gods. Sophocles, is challenging the gods here. Uh, what kind of gods are these? And this is shocking in a pagan society. He's challenging the moral stature of the gods in Oedipus at Colonus. And
Hmm.
Robert, there's this great line in King Lear. It's written by Shakespeare. Obviously, it's King Lear, but to me, it captures the essence of Sophocles. Where one of the characters in Lear says, "Like flies to wanton boys are men to gods. They kill us for their sport." Hoo. What a brutal line that is, right? Like
Hmm.
flies to wanton boys are men to gods. They kill us for their sport. And that really, to me, that captures the essence of the Oedipus saga. What
Yeah.
kind of gods are these? There's no justice in a
Yeah.
world ruled by these kind of gods. He's challenging the moral authority of the gods in the 5th century BC. I mean, this is powerful stuff.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of Colossus, he meets the king of Athens, the Theseus,
Theseus,
right? And then
what
he,
the
he
wise
dies.
man.
He finally does
Right.
die. Oedipus is alive in all the prior, uh, and his two sons are there, Polynices and Eteocles,
Or
right?
was it
Are the two
Antiochus?
of
Yeah,
them, and that again, even though it's not it's chronologically not the order that he wrote them, but that sets us up for Antigone,
right,
which I think
right.
is just an absolute phenomenal work. I have one version. There's several of them, and boy, Andy, I saw this. There's a company. There's a New York theater company called the Pearl Theater Company, and they would do classics. And back in probably the 1980s, maybe 1990s, I saw a version of Antigone that I was for 2 solid hours. I had goosebumps. It was so vivid. It was so gripping. Antigone and the seeker. I think the blind guy who has the kind of fortune teller
Hmm.
tells her. So the story of Antigone,
Yeah,
the way it
a
starts is the
seer,
two brothers fight.
right,
Yeah,
right.
seer. That's right. Yeah,
A
he's
seer. I
blind,
don't
so they
remember.
call him a seer,
Yeah, because he could
right?
see in his mind. He could
Tiresias, I
see in
think,
his
is
mind. Yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
yeah. He could see in his mind what the future will
Right,
bring.
without the senses, distorting things. So
Right.
yeah, the two brothers fight, and one is defending the king Creon, and the other is not. Polynices is the one who isn't, and Creon wants to bury Eteocles
Yeah, they kill each other. They kill each other in
heroically.
combat. Right.
They kill each
They
other
kill
in
each other
battle.
in
Yeah,
combat.
two brothers
They're
kill
both dead.
kill each
Yeah.
other in battle
Right.
and leave. He wants to leave Polynices out for the birds and the animals outside of the
Yeah.
city to die. And Antigone, the sister, says no, no. And this is she makes a moral stance here against the king, saying, "No, I'm going to bury my brother respectfully. And it's just a matter of putting dust on it. I mean, it's very simple. It's not like they dig up, and it's just a matter of putting dirt, not dust, on top of the body, which shows a level of respect. And Creon, who raised these children, he doesn't want. I mean, again, we talk about conflict, how the conflict escalates in Antigone, that he doesn't want to have to, because she's disobeying him, she has to pay the ultimate price of her life. Creon doesn't want to do that. Now let's add some conflict. She's engaged to Creon's son. Okay.
Haman,
And
Haman, his name was,
yeah,
right?
yeah, Hyman, yeah, one of the two. And the mother, Creon's wife, is deeply in love with the son and wants his happiness more than anything else. And Antigone's sister is this nice
Yeah.
sister who is like, I'll go to battle with you. And Antigone's like, no, 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 this is not your fight. This is mine. I mean, she is so independent, so fierce, so morally strong. Again, there are some religious references, some nods to the gods, which I think would have been really difficult to not have that in there in that era. I think
Yeah.
if he
Oh,
was
in the fifth
like a little bit
century
after
BC,
Aristotle,
the fifth
yeah,
century
yeah,
BC. Yeah, sure, sure.
yeah. Hmm. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
to fill in, Andy, anything you want
yeah,
on
great.
this?
You're right. Great play. Antigone, powerful heroine up there. Yeah, if we look cross genre in literature, Dagny Taggart, Antigone, there's not that many real powerful female,
Yes,
powerful heroines in world literature. That not to rival, the heroes. The focus is generally on the male good guys. She's a powerful heroine, and Sophocles packs so much into this. I mean, first of all, what I always forget which is which. One brother's we could just simplify. One brother's a patriot, the other brother's a traitor. Uh,
yeah,
but Antigone's attitudes, but yes, but that's politics. But they're both my brothers, and
that's right.
God again. Here's the gods. The gods command us to bury our dead. They get a religious ceremony so they can go on to Hades. And Creon, like you said, has forbade it. And the king, this is the power of the state. You can't bury the traitor. And Antigone was like a
Hmm.
16-year-old kid. She's a child,
Right, she's
16,
young.
17,
Yeah.
18. Yes, she's a teenager. She says to him, in effect, you have imposed on him all the punishment that the state can properly impose. He's condemned as a traitor, and he's dead. He's been killed and everything. Now it's in the hands of the gods. The gods. This is God's law. This is not man's law at play here. The gods command that he get a proper religious burial, and so she does it. Now Creon, of course, is enraged, and you can see where Creon's coming from. First of all, Antigone is arrogant. She's that. You can't. She's dictated to the king. You can't do any more than this. You're done. Now it's in the hands of the gods. She's not respectful, but that's not the point. The point is her moral character, not whether she's her psychology is a little bit carping, a little bit
Hmm.
a little bit verbally abusive. Her character is so strong. But anyhow, Creon's attitude is, wait a minute. I'm the king, you're a subject. I'm an adult, you're a kid. I'm a man, you're not even a woman, you're a girl. On all three of those
Yeah.
counts, I have the authority, not you. And you flout my authority, you're going to get it. And she does flout his authority. And you see the Sophocles' theme here. And you're right, 5th century BC. You can't escape from the pagan religion. The theme of man's law versus God's law, is dramatized brilliantly in this story. Creon loyal to the state, he's the head of the state. He imposes man's law, but in this context, Antigone is acting in accordance with God's law. There's a higher authority here than the king, Creon. And
Yep.
there's the real power, in this play because it's the struggle is It's not just a power struggle. Creon, you understand where Creon's coming from. Traders have to be punished. They leave them out there as a warning to any future wannabe,
Yeah.
traders. This the balance and the order that you spoke of before in the state has to be restored. And Antigone, his attitude, as I understand that, but there's a higher law than the law of the land. She's a deeply religious girl. Her sister Ismene, right? Uh,
Yes.
Isbini is sweet, but she's and respectful, but she's obedient. She's not independent, like you said. Antigone is. She's
Yeah.
telling Antigone, just go along with the king, and then he's a man. We're girls, and he's the king. And she's very
Yeah.
obedient. She's conventional. She's sweet and conventional. And Antigone's not that sweet. She's certainly not conventional. She's
No.
very independent. She can act on her moral principles and take the consequences. And the consequences in this story are just, you were talking about how powerful the production was. I can imagine, so the consequences of this play are brutal, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So boy, the climax where he has basically, she admits, agrees to be put to death, but even at that, she's commits suicide herself. And what does that do? That leads her lover
a
to, actually,
fiance,
they're
yeah,
not even
fiance,
lovers, because yeah, she has no, with before having children, which is a major thing for a young woman, certainly in that era. And then he kills himself, blames Creon,
yeah,
and kills himself. His mother, Creon's wife, is so distraught she kills herself. It's so, you see Shakespeare. You see Shakespeare
yeah,
and Sophocles.
yeah.
I mean, you
This
mentioned
this
him earlier. It's
this
like
is
everybody dies.
Shakespearean.
Nobody lives.
Everybody's dead. Yeah,
I was
everybody's
think
dead. I think of
I
Hamlet.
think nobody lives happily ever after. No, nobody lives. That's that's how these
This
plays
is
tend to end.
this is powerful tragedy. But you're
Yes.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Haman kills himself. Well, first of all, Creon seals her in a cave, right? And
Yeah.
and Haman and Haman goes to the cave and sees she's dead. He commits suicide. Uh, Creon
Tries to kill,
is
actually
convinced.
tries to kill his dad as well. Actually, he should have been better than Oedipus. He should have
Yeah,
done a
right.
better job of killing his father. He had reason. So, but
Yeah,
he
that's
misses
right.
him, and then yeah. Hmm.
That's right. And uh, Creon now is ruling over the ruins of his life. His son
Yeah.
is dead and died, basically cursing him. His wife,
Yes.
Haman's mother, like you said, commits suicide. Out of a terrible depression of losing her only son. And now Creon, who was trying to maintain order and the balance that the Greeks so favored, in Thebes by burying the patriot with honors and leaving the traitor out to be eaten by dogs and birds and stuff. Now he's left in this extreme disorder, this chaos of his own family and his own life. I feel for the poor guy. He's not.
Yeah.
Uh, he's a something of a dictator, but he's not like for us, Robert, in the 21st century. We could look back and we could see Stalin and Hitler and now he's not a brutal dictator like that. He was trying to punish the traitor and establish a warning to any future would be
Yeah.
usurpers of the throne. What he was trying to
Hmm.
do, and look what he's left with. Now he's ruling over chaos and pain and absolute despair, the destruction of his own
Yeah.
family by means of his choices and his decrees. And oh my God, you're right. For us who know Shakespeare, obviously Sophocles is 2,000 years before Shakespeare. But for us who know Shakespeare as well, you think, oh my God, this is like Hamlet. The end of the play, the
Yeah.
stage is littered with corpses. Everybody's dead. And wow,
Well, what an
this
experience,
is this is
Yeah.
brutal stuff. Yeah, it's brutal stuff.
It really is. And I want to go back, Andy, a couple of episodes ago, Sandra Shaw's book.
Ah, yeah.
She has a great quote from from Antigone. This is the chorus. They talk about
Okay.
man, the value of
Hmm.
man. Wonders are many of earth, and the greatest of these is man, who rides the ocean and takes his way through the deeps, through windswept valleys and perilous sea that surge and sway. So here we see that Sophocles has this view of man as a hero, and despite the the tragedy, the epic tragedy of his characters, there's still this noble vision that is a Greek. Again, this is unique to the Greeks, and here's where he is a man of his times. And but I think foreshadowing better, better days to come. Certainly better days in art. Similarly, Antigone, I think, is the first female in a play, and she's the title character in the role. So many innovations that Sophocles had, and just reshaping theatrical experience and making it so much more vivid. It's just impressive what he's done as a literary genius, and in the era uh, that so much more was to come. I mean,
Right. Right.
that those days, that was a long, long time ago, and yeah, something else, but I'll let you, kind of pitch in on
Yeah.
on your thoughts on that.
Yeah. The vision of human stature is
Yes.
impressive. Um, I I'm trying to remember. Doesn't Aristotle say in the Poetics that tragedy involves the destruction of a great man rather than of a small? I mean, I think that's Aristotle. I
Yes, you
could
have
be.
to be a
I could. Yeah.
yes, you have to be
Yeah.
a giant. Yeah, there's definitely that scale that he refers to, because it's just, if
Right.
it's a nobody, if it's Antigone's sister, again, it's like nobody's really going to. That's not going to be epic.
Yeah. It's
They
it's
lived, they
sad.
died, and
Right.
that's that.
Yeah, exactly. It's sad in that case, but you're right. The word epic here comes up,
Hmm.
but a tragedy takes place on the grand scale. It's the destruction of a
Yeah.
great man, generally by his own choices, by his own by his own will, and you can see it here in Oedipus, who's
Hmm.
choosing to fight against his destiny, but it's destined, and so he can't escape it. But in so doing, he rises to this stature, of
Yeah.
he's heroic. He kills
Hmm.
he solves the riddle of the Sphinx, uh, relieves Thebes of that monster. He searches relentlessly for the truth, even though he has some he's been warned not to. He rises to a real stature. And Antigone is a real heroine, standing up on moral principles against the authority of the king and against
Yeah.
the authority of men when she's a teenage girl, which is not
Hmm.
a small thing back
Yeah.
in the fifth
No,
century uh,
that's right.
BC. So
Yeah.
she's fighting on moral grounds, on moral principles, and
Hmm.
because of her choices, she ends up being condemned by the king. These are the demise of morally great. Two morally great people have real moral stature, and I think
Yeah.
Sophocles shows that human beings. What was that great quote from Hemingway, that man could be
Mm.
destroyed but never defeated? That's what it reminds me. Man
Yeah,
can be
that's
destroyed,
true.
but
Boy.
never defeated, and that is
Hmm.
you're gonna die at some point, and maybe be killed by your enemies, but you're not defeated unless you surrender. You're not defeated unless you give up. Antigone does not surrender. She stands her ground on moral principles,
Yes.
and Oedipus, relentlessly searching for the truth, at the very end comes to the realization: wait a minute, the gods are responsible for this, not me. And
Yeah.
well, that's a courageous thing to do in a
Right.
pagan culture. So yeah,
That's for
Sophocles
sure.
has a tragic
Hmm.
vision. Yeah, tragic vision of human life, but packed into the very nature of tragic vision is that man has heroic, morally heroic stature. And it's great. It's
Hmm.
powerful stuff. I mean, I can't say I like it. I don't share that tragic vision. I got to run out of there and read. Where's my
Me
nearest
neither.
copy of the Fountainhead? I got to read the story of Howard Rook because it's so brutal. but it's like Shakespeare. Both of them,
Yeah.
they're they're artistically they're so brilliant. They're so great at what
Yes.
they do that they just kick your guts out. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
depressed for a week after watching a good production of Antigone or or
Hmm.
Shakespearean tragedy. These guys are both of them. They're consummate literary artists. They're just
Yeah.
brilliant tragedians, and it's powerful art. It's powerful art.
Completely agree, Andy. And New York City, by the way, I don't know if you've ever been. Astoria is the one neighborhood, the
In
most
Queens,
Greek neighborhood,
yeah,
yes,
sure.
in New York City. And there's a little park called Athens Square Park that has a statue of Sophocles,
Ah,
and it is, yeah, it's really beautiful. I think the sculptor Chris Velarde, I think is his name, and I would hold gatherings there. I would actually hold like heroes events there because there are three. There's Sophocles, there's Socrates, there's Aristotle. There's actually a bust of Aristotle, and then Athena, because for Athens Square. And so I'm happy to know that there's a section in New York City that
yeah, I
recognizes
didn't know that.
Sophocles. Yeah,
I didn't
definitely
know that,
recommend
Robert.
it.
Thank you. Yeah, I gotta go there. I
Uh,
gotta go there so you can eat your souvlaki, while
you
you're
could eat
sitting there
across
with
the street. That's
Sophocles,
what
right?
we would do.
Yeah,
There's a Greek diner.
yeah,
It's right under the L
yeah,
train. I think
yeah.
it's like the R train or something. 30th and 30th
Okay.
the stops. Okay, 30th Street and 30th Avenue, something like that. Yeah, I guess clearly you never came with us when we would hold events there, but it was to celebrate the Greek. It's a great thing to have a Greek vibe, and but they're recognizing the heroes. And first of all, having Aristotle in New York City is amazing, but Sophocles, Socrates, and even the statue itself, it's like, man, he's big, he's muscular, he's like he's the hero that he looks like the hero that he writes about, and one of the heroes that he writes about in his in his works. And you know I definitely make
Yeah,
it a
that was.
point to go there.
I
I
didn't know
think
that. Well,
your
thanks. Yeah,
buddy
I gotta.
Alan, mhm,
Yeah. Well,
right,
hopefully the
lives
new
somewhere
mayor brings the. Yeah, he does. He lives in Astoria. Hopefully, the new mayor brings the crime rate in New York City down like he
yeah,
promised, and then
right. Hmm.
like
They can
Giuliani
go
did.
there easily, and
Yeah, go there and hang
and
out.
also, yeah.
Get
Hmm.
some
Hmm.
get some spani copita, and eat it while I'm communing with Sophocles. But
That's right.
but you remind me you reminded me of an earlier point we made about what a great life
Yeah,
Sophocles had. One thing we didn't mention is, according to the accounts we have, he was a very good looking guy. Uh,
good looking guy.
was
Yep.
probably
Hmm.
yeah was probably bi, wasn't he? So many, I think he was. So many of the Greeks,
Yeah, I
so
think
many of the
so.
Greeks
I'm
were.
not right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
back then
so.
that was just
Yeah, yeah, it was very common. But he was very attractive, so he had no shortage. And not to mention, he was lionized as the most brilliant, writer
yeah,
in Greek culture. So he had no shortage of of men, women, boys, whatever Sophocles preferred.
partners.
Yeah,
Although I
partners.
will
Yeah,
say
love each.
yeah, there was one point when he got older, which is when he wrote his masterpieces. I think he was like 55 when he wrote Antigone. Because that's sexual appetite had been reduced, he uh, he equated that to being more that helped him focus more on his craft. Okay, so yeah, like many people when they're
Well, yeah,
younger, that the
yeah,
voracious
yeah, yeah,
appetite,
yeah,
some it
yeah,
goes away,
yeah.
not for me, but for some it goes away. And apparently
Good for you,
Sophocles was
Rob. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it.
Sophocles was one of them that it went away for. So he let him focus
Well,
on his craft.
right on his right. Well,
But
Socrates, the philosopher, at
yes,
one point I don't remember which of Plato's dialogues it is, but he talks about the beast. The beast has died, or the beast
that's
has
right.
been
Yeah, yeah,
slain. But my sexual appetites have, yeah, 'cause he was 70 when they
yeah.
executed him, and he said the sexual appetites have diminished.
Amazing. Yeah.
But
We'll cover
and
him for
maybe.
sure.
Oh, for Socrates, yeah, for sure. And maybe that plays into it a bit, But my guess, I'm just guessing here, that the deeper reason is that to be a great writer, of drama, novels, stories, whatever, you need to really know human life. You need to know human beings, human nature.
Yes.
Uh, and that takes years of life experience. You'll notice there are brilliant prodigies in music and mathematics and different fields. Mozart was writing symphonies when he was a child. Nobody ever wrote a
Yeah.
great novel when they were 4, or
No.
even 14, or even 24.
Hmm.
I mean, how Ayn Rand was what, in her 30s when she was writing The Fountainhead. Uh, right, she was born in 1905, so
Yes. Yeah.
she was 38
38
when
when it
she
was
published it.
published.
So
Hmm.
yeah, so she's 31 or 32 when she started it. Uh, by that time,
Hmm.
she had a fair amount of life experience. She was in her 30s. Even that's kind of rare, but
Yeah.
because but anyway, that Sophocles wrote his great works in his 50s, I think is to be
Yeah.
expected. He had much more
Hmm.
life experience. So he was at age 15, let's say, 1 5, he was just as intelligent as he was at age 50, maybe more so, because you lose brain cells
Hmm.
as you get older, right? And if Sophocles was like many of the other Greeks, he probably liked the grape. I'm just guessing here, you know,
Yes.
probably like the vino, which it doesn't have a real positive effect on your brain cells. But at 1 5, age 1 5, he couldn't possibly have life experience to write Antigone. But at age 50 or 5 5, his genius combined with the life experience, the subsequent life
Yeah.
experience. Now you can
Hmm.
write, that integration. Now you can write this great literary work about human beings and human nature, human life. Requires
Yeah.
genius and life experience, and then hard work, as
Hmm.
Edison
Right.
pointed out.
That's right. Perspiration and inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
So when I went,
exactly.
when I went to Greece, I went to the Parthenon, the Acropolis, and I looked down at the theater there, which you can see from above, and I envisioned this is Sophocles. They were watching his plays, that he wrote. And when we came down, there was one of these Greek fairs, and I bought I bought a ton of these kind of magnets, mostly
Right,
Aristotle,
right.
but this one is Sophocles, and it's like a classic refrigerator magnet. And I just think, the man was incredibly productive, as you mentioned, more than 120 plays that he wrote. Sadly, only 7 of them survive, but
Mhm.
innovator, changing the nature, broadening it, bringing extra characters, women, scenery. Aristotle, as you said, called Oedipus the greatest plot in literature history, even though there wasn't that much back then. And
Well, it
just
stood
that
the test
thought,
of time.
you
It
kill your
stood the
father.
test of
Yeah,
time, though.
kill.
You know, it stood the test of time.
Absolutely, it stood the test of
It's
time.
still got to be on the short list of great plots. Even
Greatest plays.
two
Yeah,
thousand 2,400
yeah,
years later, with a great deal of literature having written, including Shakespeare and many other great writers. It's still got to be on the short list when you're talking about, well, what are the greatest plot structures ever written.
that's right. That's right. And just the era that he wrote in, the things we completely take for granted. We just buy tickets and go to the theater. But it was so novel back then. Uh, I mean, again, here's where the innovation and the genius comes in of Sophocles.
Yeah,
And just one transition, Andy. You talk because you mentioned it. Yeah, after seeing Antigone or reading Antigone, and you feel all depressed because how sad it is and tragic. You want to read The Fountainhead and become
yeah.
inspired again. Well, we haven't announced it officially. It'll probably come out later this week or next week, but we are psyched because in January you are going to be leading 16 weekly reading of the Fountainhead, where you'll cover 4 or 5 chapters a week. And man, I'm gonna be part of that. I won't be talking as much as I do on this show, but that's gonna be fun. And you want to
Yeah.
just say a couple of words about
Oh
that?
yeah, sure. A Fountainhead study group or a Fountainhead reading group. I mean,
Yeah,
what could beat that? This is the second greatest novel ever written, I think. My all-time favorite book across any
me too.
genre, fiction or nonfiction,
Yes,
with
yes,
who I think is the greatest hero in world literature. And so yeah, this is going to be fun, glorifying. What Ayn Rand talk about the human potential, the greatness, the heroic
Yes.
potential of human beings, the mind of man. I'll just give you one anecdote, Robert. So I was
Hmm.
teaching literature class back in the day, and we read The Fountainhead, and uh, you know, after that, the reading list went on. We're reading Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which is a powerful story, but it's dark, all right. The Heart of
The
Darkness,
title.
not yeah, not just on the dark continent, what Africa was called back then, but in the soul of man, the darkness of the human heart.
Yes.
And and one of the girls in class, I remember, said, "Oh my God," she said, this is so depressing, And one of the boys in the class said, "Well, Mary, her name wasn't Mary. Mary, look, here comes Howard Rourke on vacation, water skiing up the Congo." And we all laughed, and it dispelled this vision of Howard Rourke on vacation, water skiing in the Congo. It's dispelled this doom and
Hmm.
gloom that Conrad had, very very effectively as a writer had raised in our minds. So yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
Howard Rourke, the
As
vision of
did
Howard Rourke.
Sophocles. So,
Yeah.
hmm
Oh yeah,
hmm
Sophocles even greater, I think. Conrad's a very good writer.
yeah,
Sophocles is a great writer, but
yes.
yeah, the vision of Howard Rourke dispels all of this gloom and doom. This shows us the human potential in a free society. This is what human beings can accomplish. So it's going to be a lot of fun,
Hmm.
and we won't. Don't worry, anybody. We won't add on Heart of Darkness at the end. We'll avoid
No,
we'll
we'll stay in the world of the
we'll avoid
Fountainhead.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
As,
stay in the world of
hmm
Howard Rourke. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be great. So,
Sounds
yeah,
good.
as far as Sophocles goes, though,
Oh,
just
we
incredible hero uh,
yes.
in personal life and created these unforgettable heroes in the world of literature. And
Yeah, and these
for
extraordinary
that,
plot
we
structures,
definitely say
you know,
thank you.
the
Mhm.
yeah, the literary achievement of those plot structures is brilliant. And so, Robert, I think we need to salute the literary genius of Sophocles. Thank you, Sophocles, for these great
Thank you,
works of literature.
Sophocles.
Uh, yeah, thank you for these great works of literature, and I wish everybody to have a heroic day, for all of us to lead a more heroic life. And we will
Yes.
be back next week on the Hero Show.
Signing off.